get it. The OGs always told me what I start, I gotta finish. So I push it to the limit, so I can be the greatest. So I can look my family in their eyes and say we made it. Don't let life hand you nothing, you just gotta go take it. Always keep it 100, don't ever let me catch you faking. Keep a close eye on your circle.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Post Prison Podcast. It's your guy, businessman and entrepreneur, Darryl Riley. Joining me today is my ride or die sister, one of our co-hosts, Miss Cynthia Brady. Also joining us straight out of Walla Walla with the background, our new dynamic partner, brother Durell Green. Good to have you all here. Before we get started, we're going to ask everybody to please continue to support us, to please like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on YouTube at Post Prison Podcast. You could also email us at postprisonpodcast@gmail.com. So, welcome to y'all family. The topic of the show today is the N word. The word nigga, the N word, is at a prison of endearment. So this word is kind of there's a whole lot of different dynamics to this word today. I'll just give a short definition of it according to the dictionary. Plainly states what it is. It's an insulting and contemptuous term for dark-skinned people, and just plainly lays it out like that. So that's what, when I was little and I grew up and I was growing up, I was born in the mid to late 60s, and everybody couldn't say that word. You couldn't just say that around your family. That was a harsh word. But as I've gotten, it was just identified as a slur, no matter what, but as I got older, it's almost like the word started to get reclaimed, if you will. Actually, they called it a linguistic reappropriation. That's what happened. We tend to take power for that word, especially when rap kicked off in the late 70s and early 80s. And now, you can't turn on no radio station, or they might bleep it out, or just about all the records that's coming out has that word in it. So there's a little illustration and a little light on what we're gonna talk about today, and we're gonna do our best to keep some respectability to it. So, but by the same token, for anybody that got a problem, have an issue with us saying, let's just be clear. Most of y'all done probably said it too. So, Durell, tell me about, of course you can't relate to when I was born, but you can relate to how this new generation has kind of reclaimed that word. You talked about that. We had discussions about you actually coming on the podcast. You talked about our lack of use of that word, and what it meant, and the culture shift and all that. So talk a little bit about that, and what we call the linguistic reappropriation of the word.
That walkway of Walla Walla behind me, for a reason. Because yes, I grew up being called a nigga by my mom, by my aunties, by random people, white people, whoever. I've been called the N-word multiple times in all contexts that you can take the word, whether it was a term of endearment, or it was like, you're gonna be a nigga like your dad. Like, what does that mean? That's not a term of endearment there. That means you're gonna do this, right? But like, when I was at Walla Walla, the reason why I wanted that backdrop, I was, and I'm gonna drop names, just so people can understand, like, I was really there at this time and this really happened. This is probably 2003. I'm in the cell with a person from Seattle named Denny Moe. I'm in the cell with a gentleman, old Joe from Dirty South. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in the cell with a brother named Zedekiah. That was my first cell I got put in when I got in population 8 wing at Walla Walla. And after I got comfortable, I'm in there, you know, it's 23-hour lockdown. We're in max security prison, 4-man cells. I'm yelling. Like everyone in my cell, in my 4-man cell, everybody's 30 and up. I'm 18. So I'm being an 18-year-old. I'm a kid. I'm stupid. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking to the homie, Lunch Meat from Tacoma. You know what I'm saying? I'm yelling out on the tier. I'm talking to Lunch Meat and a couple other people, and we're just yelling. And I'm yelling the N-word out on the tier. If you've ever been to Walla Walla, you understand that there's tier, like there's stories of tiers, and then it goes all the way down. So like everybody, while I'm out here just being a kid, just yelling in this, and they're yelling it back to me. We're doing that during lockdown time. My cellies tapped me in the back. Not to like hurt me, but to really get my attention. And they said, "Come here. We don't do that. Do you know where you're at? Do you know who can hear you? Do you know how you're making yourself look right now?" And I had never thought about that. I just was talking to my niggas, right? See? And they sat me down on the bunk and said, "Do you know how many people in here hate you? Do you know how many people think that you are the literal definition of a nigger? And when they listen to you and your friends communicate to each other on that level, and that's what y'all calling each other, it just, it validates everything that they already think about you. You's a stupid nigga. Because that's what you guys are calling each other." And from that day moving forward, I understood that that word was something that you have to be wary of the context. You have to be wary of the social surroundings that's going on. There's a lot that comes with that, you know, and they were the first people. I learned that at Walla Walla. You don't just talk like that in front of everybody. You don't just put that out there in front of everybody. And if you choose to do so, then you're inviting it to come back to you because they hear you identifying with that. And so how you gonna get mad when they say it to you? And the first thing I went to as an 18-year-old kid, I said, what about Tupac, nigga? That man, he's a Black Panther. He's real. Like that like 18-year-old me, Tupac's the greatest nigga that ever lived. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, Tupac said it in front of white people. You know what I'm saying? So what about that? And they said, and look at the impact. And I couldn't understand that because I'm 18. But look at the impact now.
Absolutely.
And now, 20 years later, now that I'm dang near 40, I can see the impact of, wow, when I was a kid, we had NWA. We had niggas with attitude. And that
Yeah.
was a good thing, right? That was we got around that energy. Like now we can be mad in public at the police as black men. That was a good thing. That's what I grew up with. I was like 4 or 5 when they're doing that. I grew up with us identifying as black men. Instead of saying we're black men, we said we were niggas. I grew up, that was what was acceptable. That was what you wanted to be. I wanted to be a nigga. And so I used the word, my culture, my generation has used that word. Like it just comes out.
Yeah.
You if you have a pit bull, you'll be like, oh, that nigga's buff. Like you talk about stuff that ain't even people as
Right.
being the N-word. We use it that loosely.
I want to
But
let me cut in. I want to ask you a question before we go to Cynthia about that. So do you think, because most of the rap music that sells the most has a lot of that in it. So do you think that your generation or mine or whatever was actually intentionally influenced to spread more ignorance, like, to make that popular?
off top, uh, that was done easily, and I think that my generation, like the babies that were born in the 80s, us specifically were targeted to want to aspire to be real niggas
Yeah.
instead of aspiring to be men. I believe my specific generation was targeted, like teach them to want to be real niggas instead of being men. And we've passed that down, and it's got worse.
So Cynthia, is it a slur no matter what?
Ooh. When I think about it, I've seen people use it loosely. I've even used it loosely in my day, back and forth, you know. And I heard some young men say, when somebody had checked them on saying that word, and they said it's a term of endearment. And I looked at them and I said, when did it become that? And they said, it don't have the same definition. We took that word back. We took that word back. I told them, wake up those people that died years ago. Fight not to be called that. Wake them up from the dead and ask them, is it a term of endearment? And they were saying, you don't get it. You don't get it. I've seen people marching in the 60s, because I grew up in the 60s. I seen people marching, fighting. I remember as a kid, stuff blowing up all around in the Tri-Cities, where my mom has us on the floor with our heads covered up and stuff, face down, and this stuff blowing up all around the Tri-Cities because of that word nigga being used the wrong way.
Yeah.
It wasn't used as a term of endearment. And so we didn't know as kids what was really going on, but black people rose up and start fighting back and start standing up for their rights and everything. It got real crazy. And I remember that as a kid. I remember hearing stuff blowing up and glass breaking and all that. I remember that distinctly. And I was young. I probably was about maybe 5, 6 years old, maybe a little older than that. But I just remember my mom going to get my grandmother, and she brought her to the house, and we was living in the project. They had us all laying down on the ground and everything while stuff was blowing up. I mean, they was throwing cocktail bombs. It was all kind of stuff going on. It was a big race riot.
Yeah, I remember reading about that in Pasco. The thing about the word, no matter what you think about the word, a couple things are true. The strength and the impact of the word is so intense that, you know, it's kind of created another word, which is euphemism, you know, to most places. Like if you're talking to a white person, or a white person is having a discussion about one of these subjects, then they're going to say the N word, right? They're not going to say, and they're going to be nervous when they say that, because of the impact that it means to them. And even with social media, you can't even spell that word out on, because of the strong impact that it has. Okay, so speaking of that,
Many times my stomach done been turned when I hear white women in relationship with black men call them niggas.
yeah,
Like it's nothing. My stomach turned.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie. And I have checked a few about that, you know,
you,
but it's one of them
you
things
went
that,
there.
yeah, hey, I went there.
Don't all of them do it though? Don't all of them do it?
Most
Like,
of them
I'm not
do
even.
it, and
Never mind.
most of them get away with it. But I remember back in the day when you just you couldn't loosely call somebody a nigger, and you was a different race and walk away from that unscathed.
Look and see. Look, my homies. I've almost gotten into fist fights with my contemporaries, you know, about that, because I used to fight about that all the time. If you said it, I'll punch you in the mouth. It's a confrontation. Like I felt like you were testing me. If you said that around me and I don't know you, you know, like I feel like you're trying to see if I'm weak. You know,
yeah,
you want to see if you can say that around me. But we all know that there's been exceptions. And I don't know if them exceptions existed in y'all's generation, but I know that exceptions always existed in my generation, where you're like, oh, that's the white homie that grew up poor with us, so he knows what being a nigga is like. And see, that's the mindset though, is you're like, oh, if you're poor or your life sucks or something, you get to say nigga because you are a nigga, because this is what being a nigga is.
they
And
call that a ghetto
that
pad.
That's a ghetto pass.
that
I
is
was
Yeah,
just
that's a
gonna
like,
say
ghetto pad.
that's the
my
ghetto pass.
generation gave passes to people,
No,
and
we ain't
then
doing that.
rap music blew them passes up to where it's a free for all now.
Well, I'll tell you about me. I'll just use, and I won't say I'm conflicted. I really don't like, um, when I hear the word in public. I like Cynthia say, I tense up. You know, I am not going to allow nobody in one of the meetings that I'm in to continually use that word. If they use it one time, I'm going to say something. My guys, I got a few guys that work for me that's maybe 10, 15 years younger than you. And every sentence is nigga this, nigga that. You know what I'm saying? And then all the music, and even some of the music I listen to. And I find myself sometimes using it to my close friends, or if you will. So I'm kind of in a space where I have to be really cognizant of that, and not only be concerned about myself using the word publicly, but being concerned about how other people and younger people view that word as well. You know, I understand what Cynthia was saying about people died and all of that. Um, but what choice do we have at this point? Like you said, it's even Jay-Z said it, linguistic reappropriation. We taking the word back. And
And I'm gonna say, just because they say it, don't
yeah,
make it right. I don't
I
care how
agree.
famous. I don't care how famous.
I agree.
Excuse my expression. Your ass is. You you don't need to be doing that. If it's wrong, it's wrong. We don't
Yeah,
want to see. This is the thing. A lot of black people will say it to each other back and forth, but soon as the wrong person say it in the wrong context, they ready to kill. See,
so here you go.
we
I
have
got
it
some.
both ways.
Okay, you getting ahead of me though. I got some stats for you, right? I got some stats I want to throw your way. And since you started
Walk
there,
us
we'll go.
into it.
I am.
Walk us into it. Cause I know you walking us into something, man. Walk us into it.
So Cynthia kind of started it. So this was from 2006, right? It said in 2006, 1/3 of all whites use the N-word, right? Whether it be rap, whether it be in basic conversation, we talking 2006. That's almost 20
Sounds
years.
low.
Right, that's 20 years ago almost. We're almost in 2026. So if 1/3 of the whites use it blatantly in 2006, what do you think the percentage of them is now? And is it okay? Because Durell, you giving out ghetto passes. I wonder, are y'all still printing them up?
Well, see, the thing is, and look, I want to touch on this because I mean, we got the Usos and we got the Mexican homies, and they say nigga freely a lot of the time, and I remember at a time in my lifetime where if you wasn't black, you just didn't say it. That I could get kicked out of school for 2 reasons. If you mess with my little brother or sister, I can sock you. If you said nigga, I can sock you. Anything else, I'm getting in trouble when I go home. You know what I'm saying? But if I could say you was racist or you mess with my family, I can sock you. And it graduated from that to where, like, you know, I mean, some of the homies that weren't white, you know, man, the Usos, they say nigga as much as any black person that I know.
Absolutely.
And I'm just keeping it real. And for some reason, I didn't have a problem with it because I didn't feel like they hated me. And I think that, like, when we get down to the root of the word, you know, like, black people have been taught like it's a racist word and we have to respond to that in that type of a way. And I think what happened in my generation is we started trying to look at the intent. You know, like, if you said it and you didn't mean it, like, I don't think you hate black people, then it was okay. And it's progressed further from there. And I think now it's gotten out of control, like, where just anybody can just willy-nilly just, you know, like, and it's like that.
Well, I don't think that's totally true. I'll push back a little bit and say it depends on who's in the room, whether a white person will say it or not. You know what I'm saying? I don't think because I've been in spaces where some of them get to that point and they start to get ready to say it, and we all know that verse is coming down the line with that ending, and I'm in that space, and they ain't gonna say
I
it.
had to walk away from a situation. I was leaving the jazz alley one night, and it was 3 white boys and a brother, a black guy. And them white boys was nigga, 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 nigga. And I was like, and the brother ain't saying nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, when is you gonna stop this? Like, for real. And I was getting ready to say something, and the Lord, it felt like the Spirit said, don't you dare, because you might have fight them up in this elevator. I was ready to let him have it because I felt like that was just one nigga too.
That's the thing, though. Like, you cannot, I don't believe in censorship. You cannot control people's language.
I understand.
I think what's appropriate is if you, no matter what word you're gonna use, you should be cognitive of who you're around.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and the setting, the situation, and, like, even when we gave, you know, like, white homies or somebody like that a pass to say the word, it still was a thing. Like, you don't go nowhere around black people you don't know and talk like that, because it's still a respect factor. If you're cool and you got that respect here, that don't qualify you to do it everywhere in the universe. You're like, if you go around some other people, if you go to a different region, you go down to Louisiana and you start talking about, oh, it was cool when I said nigga in Northern California, those is the homies, you get your head knocked off. You know, like you have to watch where you're at, who you're around. All of those things matter, no matter what word you're saying, but with that one particular.
Okay,
How do
Durell.
you,
So
Darryl, how do you feel if somebody was to just be chopping up with you and they not black?
I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say, man, don't refer to me like that. I tell black guys all the time. Any black guy I meet, if that conversation start, hey man, don't refer to me as that, bro. That's that, and if they don't respect that, then I'm gonna walk away from it. I don't care who they are. I try not to, continue to enhance that belief. Because what I'm hearing from you, Durell, is that the definition is no longer for the word nigger insulting and contemptuous term for dark-skinned people. I hear you saying that is no longer the definition, unless you've been given a ghetto pass or you pay attention to who in your room. Are we allowing more allowances as we go to where it's not even insulting or contemptuous unless we decide?
Hey, feel free to edit this out. Cause I'm about to go real far, but I'm about to say something. And if you know me personally, you know I do this all the
Well,
time.
I'm not editing.
I love using the term white niggas. And I call people white niggas all the time, because when I was taught the word nigga, they said, oh, that means an ignorant person. So I just love, in my personal life, if you know me, I flip it. I call people white niggas all the time. When the whole time Trump was in office, I was like, look at this white nigga. Like, I talked about him like that. If he was an ignorant person, you can't tell me Trump was not a nigga. I don't care what nobody's saying. He's a white nigga. But I say white nigga, and I call it that. And if you talk to me in my real life, you know that I talk like that. I've disassociated the term nigga with being black specifically.
Okay.
You know, and when we talk about like trying to take power back from a word, that's my way of doing it. I'd be like, oh, white nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the way I use it. But I definitely, like, on a philosophical level, it's not a term of endearment. And most black people don't even use it that way. Like, when we see each other, if you're walking down the street, and we can easily just do this, be like, ooh, look at them niggas over there. Is that a term of endearment? No.
No,
Like, you're suspicious of them. Why?
No, but I
Because
heard
they're niggas.
no, but I heard a family member. I heard some family members talk. And we was all on the three-way. And one of them kept saying, I ain't calling their names or whatever. But one of them kept saying, yeah, my nigga, and something, nigga. And they kept saying it. And I said, hey. First of all, I got you on a loudspeaker. And I'm on my lunch break. And you done said that word one time too many. I said, can you find another word to call them? Well, what am I supposed to say, brother? I said, why not?
Yeah, and that's key, Cynthia. I think that we talked about the prison of endearment, but I mean, in some aspects, listening to Durell, I actually think that that's what they're saying.
That is,
bro, my brother. When they constantly call them the N-word like that.
Say that then, because it comes through different. Because me and the people that I text now, that I talk now, when we get off the phone, I be like, love you, bruh. Yeah. Or we text, bruh, brother. Like, if you mean brother, then say that, because brother always sounds better than nigga.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Period.
Or king or young queen or whatever. I've even heard women calling each other BITCHs and stuff. And I'm like, it's not cute. Well, I only do that with my home girl. You don't even know you cursing her with your mouth. Power, life, and death is in your tongue.
And you know what? Also, the gay dudes get to say it to women. But if I said it to a woman, I'm misogynistic. You feel me? Or you want to fight, but yet and still uh Jaquan, whatever you want to call itself, I done heard him plenty of times. Well, it's why you know, what are we doing here? I just I don't know that I'm old fashioned. I don't even know that I'm old school. I know a lot of the music, I know all the dances, I know about what no capping is. I stay connected to the youth. So, but I can't get beyond uh this feeling I feel when I constantly hear that word.
We just gotta, we can't call it what it isn't. It's not a term of endearment. We could break that down easy. It's not that. It's one of the most loaded words in all of human history.
And how can you give
And
power to it?
so if you're gonna use it, then understand what you're doing when you're using it. Like, it's a word that's been weaponized. And I would tell anybody Black, just because even if a white person, like, when they talk about this in different platforms, they'd be like, oh, he didn't use the hard ER, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
I've heard that before.
Like,
He said nigga.
like
Yeah.
I've been called a nigger, and most of the times when that happened in life, either I punched that kid in the face and got suspended, or I just laughed the person off, because you can't allow somebody to control you with a word. If somebody white thinks that they can just walk up to you and say nigger, and that controls your behavior, now you automatically have to be a nigger, right? You have to live up to what they called you by breaking the law and going on a rampage and doing all this. Like, I mean, bro, you lost.
Well, somebody,
My great grandmother used to say, it ain't what they call you, but it's what you answer to. And so I learned that.
If a white guy walked up to you and said that maliciously, he already was looking for that smoke in the first place.
Absolutely.
He wants me to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
So either I entertain it or I don't. But I don't have to.
But
I don't have to.
I would just echo what you all said to our people. I know everybody ain't gonna hear me. Probably don't pay much attention to us. But I would just say that we need to do better in how we refer to each other. If I'm your bro, if I'm your homie, then I'd rather you refer to me as that. Don't refer to me as your nigga. And I'm not gonna refer to you, because to me, it's still insulting and contemptuous.
Absolutely.
And I definitely don't consider myself an ignorant person. So
and it's
that's
also when they're getting intimate. You intimate with somebody and you laying down with somebody, but you getting up calling them niggas and all out of their name. What do that make you when you finna sleep with him again?
Oh,
we getting real gangster. We getting real gangster right. On this episode.
Because this subject is something that I am passionate about.
Well,
I already feel like I didn't went too far. You know what I'm saying? But
I don't know nobody that that ain't used that word. I don't care what they say, especially Black.
And there's people.
Yeah.
So there's people that I didn't got into it with, that we all know, because I used to feel a certain way about that. But I do feel like there needs to be a level of growth that takes place where, if people still talk like that, I understand that's the way that the culture then moved. And I know what I do in my personal life. I know the standard that, like, I had white friends, and these are the type of white friends that I think people should have, that they don't want to say nigga.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's other white homies that's like, if they could just say nigga around you, it'd give them like, yeah, I'm really from it, because this nigga lets me say nigga. Like, I mean, your white friend shouldn't want to say that. Why does he want to do that? That's weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, like my white homies, my white friends, I don't feel like they've been sitting around waiting for the day where I get comfortable enough where they can be like, Durell, you my nigga? Like, that's what you're waiting? That's weird. You're not really my friend. But I mean, you know, people got to divide their circle up the way they do it. But I've
But
seen
I've even seen that same
both of
thing
those
with
things.
mixed people, with that have that have mixed kids, and it's okay for them to call them kids over there a nigger, but better not call their mixed kid a nigger. And I'm like, if they calling them a nigger, they calling yours a nigger too.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we you know, a lot of times we want to decide what's good for ourselves without considering what's good for the culture. And I'm of the belief that, you know, small discussions like this can change the culture.
It
I
can.
think I don't remember ever hearing nobody else have this type of discussion. So it kind of takes a little courage. And see, Durell wasn't as bad as your meme after all.
But Brent, I already feel like I said the N-word way too many times in front of whoever's gonna see this, and I apologize. But it's just like any other word. I think there's a time and a place for everything. And you know, if I use the F word,
Yeah.
you understand what I'm trying to communicate when I use that word. If I use the N-word, you understand exactly what I'm trying to communicate when I use that word. And with that being said, most of the time when people use the N-word, what are they trying to communicate?
And that's what
And
I was just getting ready to
it's
say. Are you
usually not a term of endearment. It's usually not, you know, what you might be watching the news and be like, "Ooh, look at them niggas." Like that's usually the context that it's used in. It's usually negative. And
yeah,
and so like
but in a sense,
if
this
we
is the
continue
thing.
to self-identify as that with the understanding that it's normally negative, then what do we have? We have low self-esteem.
I was
And guess
just
what?
getting ready to speak on
Most
that.
niggas is walking around with low self-esteem, not feeling good about themselves, not having a post-prison success, because guess why? They feel like I'm still a nigga.
I was just
And that's
gonna
a
speak on
problem.
that self-respect too, the
Yeah.
respect level. It is that self-worth, that self-esteem, and the self-respect level. You know, you're not just gonna come up in my space and call me a sack of niggas
And
and
I,
think
you
it's
know,
gonna be all good. I'm
yeah,
not gonna disrespect you, and I don't want to be disrespect. I'm not gonna disrespect you, and I don't want to be disrespected.
yeah. Well, you know, in all fairness, though, you know, I don't think I'll just say for the three of us, I don't think nobody's just going to come up loosely using that word, especially a person that's not black. I think they pick and choose how they want to do that. I put out a post on Facebook about don't be scared now, and asked for comments on this. And one young lady said, yeah, she uses it when she rap. And I know Christine very well. Oops, I said her name. But anyway, um, not the one y'all know though. But you can see the comment on the Facebook post. But I just think that the word has so much wrapped up in it. It has so much power, uh, you know, and I mean, it just demeans us in so many ways. You even said it yourself, man. If that's how you identify, you know, then that's going to be your mantra. So that being said, man, I just want to thank you too for another lively conversation. It was actually fun. I actually enjoyed this
Yeah,
discussion.
me too.
You know,
It was a lot. I feel like I'm in trouble now, you know, but
I don't think so. I don't think so. I
there
think
I appreciate the conversation. And you know, I think it'll be worth it to bring up another time. Because I talk about this with almost every young black man that I'm like mentoring. And
They
and
kings, young kings in the making.
and I explained to them the I try to explain them the difference between like being a black man and being a real nigga. And most of my life, I wanted to be a real nigga until I understood that that had nothing to do with being a black man. And when like they're like, I don't know, they the same thing, ain't they? And I'm like, see, that's what I'm talking about. And when you be caught in that, you know, because when I was a kid, I was like, when I identified as being a real nigga, right? I'm like, real niggas don't go to school. We don't go to work. We don't do, like, hey, me wanting to be a real nigga, my definition of that, to this invisible real nigga committee, no one even knows who these people are. Like the real nigga committee is just over here somewhere. They don't live by this, but you're judged by them very harshly some type of way, and you live your life by those standards. And all it did was give me ear.
There you go.
This is what being a real nigga does. You be right here. Like that's what being a real nigga does. And when I grew to understand that being a real Black man was different than being a real nigga, it sat me down and I really had to think. And I'm still coming to grips with that because I go through situations to this day where I feel like, oh, I need to be a real nigga right now. But like when I say that to myself, I'm like, I'm a grown man with a wife and stuff. Like I don't have room to be a real nigga right now. Like it's a thing. That's
not positive self-talk.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, and I would also say that, that's a perfect way to end it. If you want to be a real nigga, then look at Durell's backdrop. That's where being a real N-word gonna have. And with that, I just want to thank you and Cynthia Durell for honest conversation, or authentic conversation. And I think we've created a space where we can authentically be ourselves. So to everybody out there who's been watching, send us your comments and questions and concerns. I know you probably haven't heard a discussion like this, because I ain't never heard no discussion like this. We ask you to continue to like, share, and subscribe. Reach out to us on postprisonpodcast@gmail.com, and just continue to support us is all we can say. To Cynthia and Darryl, thank you for the opportunity to just learn more about you and who you are, man. I appreciate you guys. Much love and respect for you both. And until next time, peace.
Every morning I wake up, all I know is get it. The OGs always told me what I start, I gotta finish. So I push it to the limit, so I can be the greatest. So I can look my family in their eyes and say we made it. Don't let life hand you nothing, you just gotta go take it. Always keep it 100, don't ever let me catch you faking. Keep a close eye on your circle.